Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're talking about something really quite central to India's whole economic picture. Its arbitration system. With the economy expanding the way it is and so much more cross-border business, figuring out how we sort out disputes efficiently, fairly, it's becoming critical.
Absolutely critical.
And for those of you focusing on the UPSC exams, this is a daily mains topic, really, but it has legs for prelims, too. Definitely worth understanding deeply.
It really is. And, often the headlines are about, say, new laws or what the courts are doing.
Right.
But today we're diving into something maybe less talked about, but arguably just as vital.
Yeah.
The actual people making the decisions, the arbitrators.
Oh, the human element.
Exactly. And a key thing right away.
Yeah.
Being a fantastic judge doesn't automatically mean you'll be a top-notch arbitrator. The jobs, while they look similar on the surface, need different skills.
Interesting. So this idea that we lean heavily on one group that might actually be holding us back a bit.
That's the core argument we're exploring, yes, based on some insightful discussion in the Hindu.
Okay, let's get into that then. Why exactly are these arbitrators so fundamental? Why are they the linchpin here?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
The whole system's reputation, its legitimacy, it really rests on two pillars.
Yeah.
Are the proceedings run well, efficiently, and are the final decisions, the awards, are they high quality, well-reasoned?
Makes sense.
And the arbitrator is bang in the middle of both. They control the process, the timelines, how things run, and then they write the award. That's the outcome.
So a smooth process, a logical decision that builds confidence, but delays or maybe awards that don't quite stack up,
Yeah.
that erodes trust pretty quickly, I imagine.
Precisely. You could say they're the backbone, really. That's a good way to put it, the backbone of India's arbitration setup.
Right.
But here's the disconnect, and this is quite relevant for our listeners. Lots of attention goes to the lawyers, the advocates, what we call the arbitration bar. But strengthening the arbitration bench, that's the arbitrators themselves, that discussion. It seems to get much less airtime.
So the bar is the lawyers arguing the case. The bench is the person deciding it. Got it. And you're saying we focus too much on the former?
Comparatively, yes. It feels like an oversight given how crucial that bench role is.
Yeah, that does seem a bit odd.
And this isn't just our observation. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud himself pointed this out. He noted, quite tellingly, how few Indian arbitrators get appointed in disputes that are purely international, say between two foreign companies.
Oh, really? Why would that be?
Well, it raises that question, doesn't it? Why aren't more Indian experts sitting on those international panels?
And does this link back to what you mentioned earlier, this tendency to prefer retired judges for arbitration roles here in India, especially for the big cases?
I think it does, yeah. There's definitely a strong preference, almost an assumption, that years on the judicial bench automatically mean efficiency and, really solid awards, especially when the stakes are high.
The safe pair of hands argument, perhaps?
Yes, exactly. But, and here's a key point, the Ministry of Finance, back in June 2024, put out some guidelines. And they actually flagged issues. They pointed to delays, inefficiencies, sounding a bit like the court system sometimes. And, quite concerningly, a number of awards being challenged precisely because the reasoning wasn't strong enough.
Wow. So the reality on the ground kind of pushes back against that automatic assumption.
It certainly challenges it. It suggests that, look, judicial experience is valuable, no doubt. But the skills you need for arbitration, they aren't always a direct one-to-one transfer. It's a different game in some ways.
Okay, so if the traditional judicial skill set isn't the only thing, or maybe not even the perfect thing, what skills do make a really effective arbitrator today?
Right. Good question. First off, strong managerial skills. This is huge.
Managerial, like running a project.
Pretty much, yeah. Modern arbitration is all about finding that balance. You need certainty, a clear process, but also flexibility. You need to adapt to this specific dispute. So the arbitrator needs to be a bit like a project manager, keeping things moving, managing timelines, ensuring fairness, but also efficiency. That's quite different from, say, the stricter rules of civil procedure you find in court.
Right. Less rigid, perhaps more proactive management needed.
Exactly. Then there's the international angle, super important for India's global standing. In those cases, you're often working with arbitrators, lawyers, parties from totally different legal backgrounds, different cultures.
Ah, yes.
Imagine like mediating between a German company used to very formal procedures and an American one expecting something else entirely.
Yeah.
You need serious soft skill negotiation, persuasion, that kind of cross-cultural awareness.
Skills you don't necessarily pick up just by sitting on a domestic court bench.
Not automatically, no.
Yeah.
It's about navigating diversity effectively. And then finally, the award itself.
The decision.
Yeah. Crafting that award. It often means wading through huge amounts of documents, expert reports, complex financial stuff.
Right. Technical details.
Exactly. So you need skills in managing that evidence, really digging into the facts, understanding things like how to quantify damages properly. These are specialized skills, often requires dedicated training, actually.
Okay. That paints a clearer picture. Different skill set needed. Managerial, cross-cultural, specialized analytical skills. So the big question then, how does India build up this pool of truly effective arbitrators? What's the way forward?
Well, the sources we looked at, particularly in the Hindu, suggest two main paths. First, diversification. We need to actively broaden the pool.
Beyond just lawyers and retired judges.
Absolutely. Think about bringing in specialists, people from finance, engineering, international trade, tech, people with deep specific industry knowledge.
So for a complex construction dispute, having an engineer on the panel could be invaluable.
Precisely. Their expertise can lead to much more nuanced, informed decisions. It makes the whole process more robust. So for you, the listener, think about how that diversity could lead to fairer outcomes in business disputes that ultimately affect the economy.
That makes a lot of sense. What's the second path?
Structured training, really institutionalizing it.
Okay.
We're talking rigorous certification courses, hands-on practical workshops, maybe stronger professional bodies for arbitrators.
So professionalizing the role more.
Yes, exactly. It's not just about developing the skills we talked about, but also about making arbitration a recognized primary career path in itself, not just something people drift into after another career.
Right. Really investing in that human capital, as you said earlier.
That's the heart of it. The main takeaway here, really, is that if India genuinely wants to be a top global destination for arbitration,
Which is the goal.
which seems to be the goal, yes,
Yeah.
then we can't just tweak laws. We have to seriously focus on the quality, the skills, and the diversity of the arbitrators themselves. It's about the people.
So it really comes down to this question, maybe for you listening. India has these big economic ambitions, right? Global leadership ambitions. How do we make sure our systems for resolving disputes aren't just okay, but genuinely world-class? And maybe thinking outside the box a bit. What role could experts from fields outside of law play in getting us there? Something to think about.
Definitely critical questions for India's future, especially for anyone tracking its economic journey or its legal framework development.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into a really crucial aspect of India's arbitration system.
My pleasure.
If you found this useful, particularly for your UPSC prep or just your interest in how India operates economically and legally, please do hit like and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts too. Drop your questions or comments about arbitration's future in India below.
Yes, please do.
And just a reminder, our discussion today was informed by analysis found in The Hindu. Join us again next time for another deep dive.